When your stud goes out, sometimes someone does just fine without them. Who had Rashard Mendenhall? Lucky you, right? Well, come on into your fantasy huddle. I'm Shehadi alongside Jamey Eisenberg. This video brought to you by Norton Denier of digital dangers everywhere. Willie Parker wants to be back in week 5. But is that just a one-week performance for Mendenhall?
We'll see. We'll find out if Parker does get back in there, because Mendenhall, if you saw that performance Sunday night against the Chargers, it made you blink twice. It maybe even made you blink 3 times. When you look at the way that he played against what really is not a great defense in the Chargers, but he certainly stepped up to the plate with Parker out. Now, keep in mind, Mendenhall was actually benched in week 3 against the Bengals, but with Parker dealing with that turf toe problem, if Mendenhall starts again in week 5, they're facing the Lions, so Mendenhall could have a tremendous outing. And then, Lauren, when you see Moore up there also, he actually threw a touchdown in this game as well against the Chargers to Heath Miller. But Moore is more of the guy that's going to work in on passing down. So both these guys have a lot of value going forward. You could read about it on the waiver wire column on CBSSports.com. But both guys are going to be worth adding if you have the ability to pick them up. A
lot of value. You know who needs to have a lot of value in a breakout game is Tony Romo before it's too late, Jamey.
Yeah, absolutely. You see the way he played against Denver. That just really wasn't a good performance. It was a performance that we kind of expected, because the Broncos, as we know, playing really well on both sides of the ball, but their defense, their secondary especially, has really stepped up this season and has really taken control of that defense. Mike Nolan, the defensive coordinator there, is really doing a fantastic job. But if you look at Romo coming into this game, second game in a row now without a passing touchdown, that's not a good sign. Now, the good thing is, going into week 5, they get a game against Kansas City where Eli Manning just threw for 3 touchdowns. So you got to hope that Romo starts to step up, starts to play well going forward. But this is really some cause for concern, because Roy Williams not getting it done. Jason Witten only 1 touchdown on the season. Patrick Creighton, Miles Austin, these guys have disappeared since the first week, and now we're starting to see the running back situation be a little bit of a mess because of the injury to Felix Jones, Marion Barber not 100%. This Dallas offense needs a game like they could potentially have in week 5 against Kansas City to make people feel a little bit more comfortable.
Sure, they definitely need to clean things up. You're wondering if it's time to sit maybe Tony Romo. You're wondering maybe if it's time to start Steve Smith or Mike SimsWalker.
Yeah, you look at the way these two guys have played. Steve Smith in standard fantasy leagues is actually the #1 wide receiver, and who would have thought that coming in? He's outplaying guys like Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, Randy Moss. You name it, he's better than them all right now. And you saw the performance against the Chiefs, another 2 touchdowns. He's just really playing at a different level at this point. And then Mike SimsWalker is another guy that's really stepped up. The stats that you see there, that's in only 3 games of action. He was limited coming into the year with an ankle problem, missed the first week of the season. Troy Williamson goes down. This guy steps up. You talk about 2 guys, third-year breakouts, Lauren. I know we talked about that all offseason long coming into the year. Third-year wide receivers. These are 2 guys that we like coming into the year, and they're living up to it. And the thing about SimsWalker is he's actually making David Garrard into a great fantasy option.
You have to go with guys that are going to make the plays, right? What about Jerome Harrison, Mohamed, Massaquoi? These guys are those guys making plays, Jamey.
Absolutely. When you look at Jerome Harrison, this is the guy I think a lot of people should focus on, maybe even more so than Rashard Mendenhall, because he's available in the majority of leagues still. You look at Harrison going forward, great schedule. They still have 2 games against the Steelers and 1 game against Baltimore, but that's really it in terms of tough run opponents. Jamal Lewis will be back at some point. We know James Davis is out for the rest of the year with the shoulder problem, but Jerome Harrison is someone you should definitely pick up. Now, Mohamed Massaquoi, that's the guy I think you should just scout at this point. We know Derek Anderson is going to be the starter, at least going forward, because they benched Brady Quinn. But I don't think this passing game is going to evolve in terms of making Massaquoi into a great fantasy option. He's not going to become a SimsWalker or a Steve Smith at this point, but definitely somebody you keep an eye on. And in those deeper leagues, pick him up, because you see 8 catches, you see over 100 yards receiving.
Pretty good.
Those are pretty good numbers.
Okay, let's talk about injuries, even though I know you don't want to deal with injuries. You know who else doesn't want to deal with injuries? The Lions. Matthew Stafford. That is not what they need right now. We're going to keep an eye on that need. What's the latest in all of these guys?
Well, they left the game. When you look at Stafford and Calvin Johnson, both guys left the game. Stafford's probably a little bit more in trouble than I think Calvin Johnson is. I think Johnson plays in week 5 against the Steelers. Stafford, they're going to definitely be careful about, because obviously he's the quarterback of the future. Eli Manning's the other big name on this list. You look at his heel problem, I think he'll be okay. He's played in the last 75 games, so I think he should be back under center there. And then the 2 guys for the Bears, obviously those are guys you want to keep an eye on, because Hester, Knox, 2 very important people for Jay Cutler. Fantasy owners have been counting on these guys for most part of the season. Knox has been a tremendous breakout player, but the good thing for the Bears is they're on a bye in week 5, so they can rest, probably be back for week 6.
And if you want to know all about the injuries and game time decisions, Fantasy Football Today, of course, every Sunday, 11 o'clock for 2 hours. It will help you set your lineup. For Jamey Eisenberg, I'm Shehadi. We'll see you soon.